Once again, welcome to the webinar, and we are good to go. So, welcome everybody to today's webinar. We are very pleased to have all of you here, and we are happy to get started. In today's webinar, IESS, the International Solar Energy Society, is happy to welcome the IEA SHC Solar Academy once again to present on the topic of solar heating and cooling markets, trends, and outlooks. My name is Arabella. I am the Congress's Communications and Outreach Officer here at IESS HQ, and I will give you a short introduction into IESS and the work we do, as we have many new participants joining us on the webinar today. So, IESS, who are we? IESS is a UN-accredited non-profit NGO founded in 1954, and we've been accredited since 1992. IESS represents a diverse membership of academics, researchers, energy practitioners, consultants, students, businesses, and advocates from countries all around the world. Our vision is 100% renewable energy for all, used efficiently and wisely. And IESS works together with like-minded organizations such as the SHC from countries all around the world to advance the renewable energy transformation. To achieve this, we have a few key activities which I'd like to introduce to you shortly. We have biannual congresses. Those are, for example, the IESS Solar World Congress 2023, which is coming up this year. And next year, we will be having Eurosun 2024. We have two key publications, which is Solar Energy and Solar Energy Advances. We hold webinars, such as the one today, and we have education initiatives for young researchers, both online and offline. And additionally, we also publish a series of infographics, and that's something exciting that's going to be relaunching this year. We have an actual virtual solar energy museum that's also coming up towards the end of this year. Now for the webinar today, which is why we're here, we will be hearing from our three presenters, and we will have a cumulative Q&A session at the very end of the webinar. This is where you can submit your questions to the speakers. You don't have to wait until the very end. You can already start typing in your questions in the chat box. Feel free to send them at any time throughout the webinar, but please keep in mind, keep the questions short and precise and write who the question is for. So we will have an easier time allocating questions to speakers when we do the Q&A session. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce you to the moderator of today, Pedro Diaz. Pedro is a passionate advocate for the decarbonization of heating and cooling systems, especially since he joined Solar Heat Europe back in 2008. As the former Secretary General and current policy director at Solar Heat Europe, he's been devoted to advancing the potential of solar thermal energy in Europe. So Pedro, a warm welcome from our side, and I'm handing over to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Arabella, and thanks also to IEA SHC and IESS for the opportunity to cooperate with this webinar once again as a moderator. So my name is Pedro Diaz, as Arabella was saying. I work for Solar Heat Europe, a trade association representing the solar heating and cooling sector in Europe. I'm rather enthusiastic about the topic of our webinar today and the fact that we have three outstanding speakers. Werner Weiss, Bärbel Epp, and Nicholas Gravlin. As you know, the webinar is foreseen to take around 1 hour and a half with the Q&A part at the end, as Arabella was just explaining. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker that will start with an introduction about the IEA SHC and its Solar Academy, and then proceed for the main presentation on the new edition of Solar Heat Worldwide. So the speaker is Werner Weiss. Werner is one of the most reputed experts in our sector. It has been for me a pleasure to work with Werner over the years within Solar Heat Europe and the different spaces we work also on research and innovation topics. Also for all the experience that Werner brings over all these years. So he's a founding member and the director of Austrian Research Institute, AINTEC in Gleisdorf, and he's working in national, international solar thermal and energy efficiency projects since the beginning of the 80s. As you might know, Werner is also a co-author of the study Solar Heat Worldwide that will be presented today. So Werner, thank you very much once again, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Pedro, for the introduction. And as it was mentioned already, I will have two presentations. One is just short on the Solar Academy webinar series. As you might know, the IEA Solar Heating and Cooling Program organizes, together with ICES, was just explained by Arabella before, these quarterly webinars. Our webinar today is on solar heating and cooling markets, trends and outlook. And it's presented today and in 2 days in the morning for the Eastern Hemisphere. As you can see at the solar heating and cooling, so I hope you can see my slide. IEA Solar Heating and Cooling is a R&D collaboration already since the 70s. We have 19 member countries and 8 international partners, and also the European Commission is partner of the IEA Solar Heating and Cooling Program. Currently, more than 200 experts worldwide are working in our 9 current tasks. Tasks are basically research projects where we are working in. And just to mention a few of them, we work on solar process heat, on solar cooling, on solar energy in buildings, but also on thermal storages and solar district heating and integrated lighting. So these are a very broad range of different projects we are working in. So if you're interested to joining one of the solar heating and cooling tasks, then please check on our website if your country is member of the IEA Solar Heating and Cooling Program. Then you see also organization members if you fall in within this. And here I should also mention also all ICES. ICES is a member of SHC, so also there is a possibility to join tasks if you are an ICES member. Then learn more about tasks. If you want, just visit our website. And if you are really interested to join a task as an expert, please contact our task managers. But you will also find a link on our website. So what is the Solar Heating and Cooling Academy? It's basically, we had the idea several years ago, all the research results we produce from more than 50 years international collaboration to distribute this information to as many people as possible. So therefore, we have these scientific results, but also training materials, case studies, fact sheets, databases, design and evaluation, assessment tools. This is what we transfer to a broad audience worldwide. What we offer, it's more than just the webinars. It's the webinars I mentioned already. Then I want to mention also the next webinar will be on 19th and 21st of September. The topic will be solar energy in buildings. So if you're interested, join this webinar as well. Then we also have videos. You can find all these videos also on our YouTube channel, and we have on-site training. So if there is interest in a certain region or country, did not participate in the task, there's the possibility that experts of IEA SHC go to this country and do an on-site training. If you're interested in this, you can also get in contact with our secretariat. You can see the email address on the bottom of this slide. So you'll find more information on our website. I mentioned it several times. You can download the solar heating and cooling publications. For instance, the Solar Heat Worldwide report, which I will present in a minute. And you can follow us on social media. With this, just the final slide. It's our flagship report. It's the Solar Heat Worldwide report, which is prepared by a colleague of mine, Monika Spörk-Dürr, and myself. So we do it now for 19 years already on an annual basis, and we have a semi-annual newsletter. This is what you get for free download, so just go on our website. With this, thank you for your attention for this short overview on the IEA Solar Heating and Cooling Academy. And now I want to switch over to my presentation, or the main presentation, the solar heat worldwide. I guess most of you know it already. The solar heat worldwide presents every year the development on solar heating and cooling worldwide. We have currently more than 70 countries where we have detailed information on the market development in the last year. So we have for most of the or a lot of the countries, we have the detailed information already for 2022. And in this report, you find very detailed information on the year 2021. I will not focus in my presentation on the data of 2021. So if you have time, of course, you can download the whole report and look at it in more detail. So this is how the Solar Heat Worldwide report looks like. So this is just the cover page. And here you see the solar thermal capacity in operation. So the accumulated installed capacity, and the accumulated installed capacity is 542 gigawatt installed capacity, corresponding to 774 million square meter of collector area. This includes flat plate collectors, evacuated tube collectors, and air collectors. So it's all collectors included. The annual energy yield of these systems installed is 442 terawatt hours, which correlates also to savings of close to 50 million tons of oil, or 150 million tons of CO2 annually. So it's a quite significant contribution also for reducing the CO2 emissions. In total, this represents 115 million solar thermal systems installed worldwide. But I should mention here, I guess solar heating is the only sector which really takes the lifetime of systems into account. So we deduct old systems again, and just in comparison to PV or wind, at least to my knowledge, we are the only ones who deduct the old systems. So these systems I presented just now, the systems are really in operation. The annual installed capacity and net additions you can see on this slide. And as you can see, starting with 2012, 2013, the annual installations unfortunately went down. And we had an increase again from 2020, 2021. And as it looks, as a first look, in general, there is we had a quite good market growth, particularly in Europe. But as you might also know, if you are from the sector, we have one really dominating market, which is China. And China, unfortunately, had a significantly decrease, and also India last year. Therefore, the worldwide market decreased by 9.3% in the last year. But as I just mentioned, the decline is justified by market slump in China of 12.4%, and India saw really a significant drop from 16% growth last year to minus 21% in 2022. So this is basically why we have a worldwide trend going down. But if you look on the major markets in Europe, we have a significant growth, or had a significant growth last year. I will start with Lebanon, even if Lebanon is not one of the major markets of Europe, of course, or worldwide, but nevertheless, you can see they had really a growth of 145%. I don't want to go in much detail, but they had also a change in policy, and therefore it had a significant growth of this range. But also, if you look to European countries, We had an increase of the market in 2022 of 43% in Italy, France 29%, Greece 17%, Poland 11%, Germany 11%, and also South Africa. So these are the yellow arrows now. They were the European countries, but also here with 9%. South Africa had a significant growth with 9%, and 5% in Cyprus and the United States. Just this is based on this preliminary data based on the data we received. We have not yet received all countries here, so if there's some, but it looks quite good for European countries. And as I said, worldwide, it's basically the impact of China and India that it went down. Large-scale solar thermal heating systems play a major role for years already. And you can see here the development of these large-scale systems. And this includes not only solar district heating, but also other large-scale systems which are bigger than 500 square meter. Installation was 350 kilowatt. And as you can see here from this slide on the long term, this was really for years, this was the large-scale systems were dominated, especially by Europe or European countries. And in 2019, China took over the lead in terms of the number of large-scale systems installed per year. You can see this in the bars, and China is indicated here in orange, and the European systems are in green. So this is a significant change, and this is ongoing. Up to now, by end of 2022, we have 571 large-scale systems we have documented, which is an equivalent of 2.1 gigawatt installed capacity, which is corresponding to 3.1 million square meter of collector area. A specific part of these large-scale systems are solar district heating systems, and as you can see on this figure, Denmark is leading in terms of number of systems and also the size of systems. So this bar really goes to the second floor, so it's cut on the top. Denmark alone has an installed capacity of 1.1 gigawatt, with about 123 systems installed. But on number 2 is China with 67 systems. Then you have Germany, Austria, other European countries, Saudi Arabia, and so forth. But the top 3 are Denmark, China, and Germany. In total, we have detailed information of 325 solar district heating systems with 1.8 gigawatt installed capacity. A highlight in the year 2022, sorry for the typo here, it's not 2020, it was 2022. China reported the installation of 170,000 square meter of collector area in district heating systems, and other 25 large-scale systems with an average of close to 7,000 square meters per plant. And in Germany, 8 systems for solar district heating were installed with a total collector area of 44,000 or close to 45,000 square meter. And this is interesting. In Germany, there are about 50 systems installed already. And this was really, 2022 was a record year for solar district heating in Germany. It's not just these 8 systems newly installed, but also 9 systems in a very advanced stage of, some of them are already under construction and advanced planning stage. And in preparation, there are about 66 systems with a total collector area of 450,000 square meters. So it looks optimistic for the future, for the upcoming years. This is just one of the solar district heating plants in Germany, in Lemgo. It consists of 9,000 square meter vacuum tube collectors. It's just to show one of the nice pictures of these large-scale systems here for district heating in Germany. ship systems. I will not go very much in detail on solar heat for industrial processes because Bärbel will focus more on the ship systems. We have in our database, we have now close to 1,100 ship systems. It's about 1.2 million square meter of collector area. So it's about 856 megawatt in operation worldwide. I want to mention here that with district heating, we think we have really covered all the district heating systems worldwide because they are known in the countries, so it's relatively easy to get them into our statistics and get the information. The ship systems is significantly harder to really collect worldwide all the systems. For instance, China always reports a number of systems, but we don't get detailed data for these systems. So therefore, at least 1,100 systems. Most probably there are quite a number more of these systems in operation. We just don't have in our statistics. Out of these 1,100 systems, we have for close to 500 systems, we have detailed information available in our database, which we are running here at IEA in our institute. You have the link here. So if you're interested on the detailed information of this ship systems, you just follow this link here, shipplants.info, and then you know where the applications are, how big the systems are, in which countries. So you get a lot of information here on this close to 500 systems, and it is to get a good overview on the size of the collector types which are used and on the sectors where they applied. Just one picture of the systems installed in 2022. In 2022, at least 114 new plants were installed. Bärbel will present more of this afterwards. And this is one of the systems installed in the United States. In the last year, it's a Ball Corporation headquartered in Fairfield in California in the US. They use flat plate collector with a 2.8 megawatt installed capacity. And this plant provides heat for washing beverage aluminum cans. It's just to give you one example of the many systems installed. Coming to PVT, so photovoltaic thermal systems, this was really a success story in the last years. So about 1.5 million square meters of PVT collectors are installed worldwide. So this is what we have accumulated. And if you look on the PVT markets up to now, then you can see this combination of producing heat and electricity in one collector unit is really mainly in Europe with 62%, then Asia without China, 21%, so a lot of is done in Asia here, and China accounts for 10% of the installed capacity. Then we have the MENA region, so Middle East and North Africa, about 4%, and others 3%. If you look to Europe, France is by far dominating the European market, with 40% of the market, followed by Germany, 10%, the Netherlands, 7%. And we had a quite good increase of about 9% annually until 2021. And unfortunately, in 2022, this really changed. The global PVT market shrank by 52%, and it's mainly due to two countries, and this is France. So the biggest market worldwide, this really collapsed, the reduction of minus 90%, mainly due to changes in the subsidy scheme. This was one of the main factors. Another factor was that a lot of these companies who produce PVT and also PV alone, they had such a big demand that they mainly focused on the PV production instead of PVT. We had also a significant reduction of the market in the Netherlands, with 43%, but also very positive market developments. I have to mention with smaller markets like in Italy, 4 times the market compared to 2021. So 414%, Germany 126%, Switzerland plus 103%, and Spain is plus 52%. So we have a very mixed market development here. And I want to show just one final slide to PVD collectors. If you look to 2021 on the left-hand side on this bar, then you can see here that we had in 2022, the market changed completely. So in 2021, PVT air collectors were 45% of the total market. And this PVT air collector disappeared completely from the market in 2022. And this is mainly the impact of France, where they had this change in the subsidy scheme, and the air PVD systems really disappeared from the market last year. Quickly, an outlook to 2023 or the current year and beyond. There's really a very good outlook, very positive outlook on solar thermal heating and cooling. There's really, we can see an increased demand in solar district heating. So it's not in just one country what we had years ago. In Denmark, there was a booming market, and in the other countries came up step by step. Now we have an increased demand in solar district heating in a number of countries. And in my point of view, this is a very cost-effective way to make urban district heating systems CO2 neutral. And we have shown already in large-scale systems like in Denmark, then this heat can be produced for cost of 20 to 50 euro per megawatt hour. And this is really where solar heat is really competitive compared to gas or other or coal-fired district heating plants. And just as a remark, even if there's a lot of discussion of electrifying the heat sector, this will not be done by just electrifying the heat sector in using renewable, hopefully renewable electricity and heat pumps. As you know, 50% of the final energy demand is still, and this did not change over the last 15 years, 50% is heating and cooling. And this will not be done in the next decade with just electrifying the heating sector. So there's a huge potential for solar district heating, and this can be seen now in an increased demand. So there is in the pipeline, what we know, it's solar district heating for the next years in the range of 400 to 500 megawatt. Just mention a few of them. In Germany, 9 solar district heating systems, as I mentioned already before, are under construction. We're in the advanced planning stage. Another 66 are under concrete discussion. In the Netherlands, a large-scale system is 48,000 square meters, so 33 megawatt, in the stage of completion, more or less, in Groningen. Then also in the Western Balkan countries, in Serbia and Kosovo, there are big plants, as you can see here, with 58,000 square meters and the 408,000 cubic meter seasonal storage. In an advanced stage already for district heating system in Pristina, capital city of Kosovo, and another 2 district heating plants are planned for Serbia, but also large-scale systems, 24 megawatt, so in the other one even bigger. There's also a new dimension is opening up in China, the Handan Bay Water World Resort. It's all nearly finished in the construction. It's a 114,000 square meter parabolic trough collector system, so close to 80 megawatt system is under construction or nearly complete. Also, there's a very positive outlook for ship plants. Bärbel will mention more out of this, and it's also information of Bärbel Lab. So there are planned for 2023 about a 7-fold increase of the plants installed. So that's really positive outlook. And I'm coming to my last slide. If you want to know more about the Solar Heat Worldwide report, we're happy if you download it from our website. So from the IEA Solar Heating and Cooling Programs website, you can download the report, and there is of course much more detailed information compared to what I could present now in this short time. And you are interested in also the older editions, so want to go back in history. As I said, this is the 19th edition already of the Solar Heat Worldwide report. With this, I thank you for your attention and hand over back to Pedro.
Thank you very much, Werner. So Werner provided us an overview of the evolutions in the different segments, such as large-scale systems, and also the main segment, the residential, including solutions as PVT. As we've seen, there was an interesting evolution regarding large scale, so district heating and solar heat for industrial processes. But as Werner mentioned, he didn't get into more details because the latter one, the ship system, so for industry, will be covered in the next presentations. And with this, I would like to go to our next speaker, Berbelep, whom is an extremely well-known journalist covering solar thermal for over 20 years. She's the founder and managing director of the agency Solrico and the editor of solarthermalworld.org, which I believe most of you will know well. And Berbel has also been an author and collaborator in many relevant publications, such as the Solid and Cooling Market Industry section in the REN 21 Global Status Reports. So it's very interesting to have Berbel with us because she's been developing a good network also for large-scale systems and ship in particular. So this adding to all the experience she has in the sector, and I'm sure that once again she will give us a very good and very interesting perspective on the global industrial solar heat markets. So the floor is yours, Mary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pedro. Nice introduction. I would like to start my presentation here. I hope this works. I would like to talk today about global industrial solar heat market challenges, trends, and outlook. These survey, well, the presentation is based on annual surveys that we did since 2017 on a regular basis. The last two surveys were financed by the German research project Modulus. I would like to send a big thank you to them and also to Vara Latvidat. She did the survey with me and followed up with the companies. We have established a ship supplier world map where you find the link here below, and the companies which are on this world map receive a questionnaire once a year, and from this we generate what you will see today. Yeah, the ship market has developed dynamically again after COVID. This is what Werner already said. We had 114 systems identified in 2022. This was the highest number we ever had, but you also see the obvious slowdown due to COVID restriction of traveling and also transportation cost hesitating of clients. We had a certain, slowdown in the market a lot in the years 2020, 2021. We see a big diversification of the ship system. This chart shows you the overall new ship capacity that was installed in 2020, which is 30 megawatt in total. And you see that a lot of different collector types were used for the project that we identified. So this goes from the very low temperatures, unglazed polymer collectors, PVT collectors, air, to the very high temperatures where you have parabolic drafts, which you can produce 250 to 300 degree or concentrating dish or linear Fresnel. So this is a big trend that we see. Altogether, we had 7 ship plants among the 114 with operating temperatures above 100 degree in last year's market. So this shows you just an overview what collector types we have and what temperature levels they serve. And you see here in the middle column the different processes in the industry that need these different temperature levels. So you see from the previous pie chart I showed you that from the very 60-degree to the 400-degree projects, we have served a lot, and we have served also a lot of these different processes. Current and future driving factors. I have listed you some important ones from my point of view. Well, the first one was obviously the gas shortage in Europe and the peaking energy prices in 2020, which woke up a lot of the industry people. We have also good funding situation in some European markets. To name here is Austria, France, Netherlands, Germany, and Spain, but also the United States are coming up. I would like to mention Austria here particularly because they have started a subsidy program 2 years ago, where they also grant visibility studies for projects above 5,000 square meters. And this had a big success. In the meantime, we have 13 visibility studies in their pipeline, and the average of the ship systems is 15 megawatt. And if you compare this to the only 3 ship plants that we have in operation in Europe at the moment, which range between 7 and 11 megawatt, this is a huge success. We will also probably hear more about the US, not only because the supply chain for ship systems increased a lot, I will come to this point later in the US, but also they have allocated again a big budget for ship systems, not only ship, but renewable heat in general, of $4 billion US, again, tax credits, which were in place already previously. And we will talk to the project developers there to find out the effects that will have. This is a very new information, I think still from May. Also, an important driver of ship demand is the internal commitments of multinational corporations to reduce their carbon footprint. The company brand names that you find in brackets here, like Heineken, Asahi, Carlsberg, Mayr-Melnhof, PepsiCo, or Baltmold, these are multinational corporations that run sometimes above 50 factories around the world. And they have done already, or they are about to realize the first ship plants for their factories. So if this is successful and they will be satisfied with their, with the yields and the performance of the systems, we are pretty sure that there will be more systems coming up within their factories. The emission trading system and saving carbon pricing on the national level is an important driver, and some of the project developers already price this into their ship systems as a saving, which helps them for the economy of their system. And a very new factor that will probably also have a big effect is the European Supply Chain Due Diligence Law, which just came into force in January 2023, and that requires EU companies to carefully manage social and environmental impacts along their entire value chain, including direct and indirect suppliers. So there's a big pressure coming from the EU now to really green and decarbonize also the heat structure, and solar thermal would be a good solution for that. But, well, good prospection, a lot of factors of driving the market, but still the mood on the ship market 2022 was sort of divided. The companies, about 80%, confirmed that there was a triggered demand by the energy prices. Also, they confirmed that public financial support, which is the second part here, is still an important requirement for selling ship. This was also confirmed by around 80%. But the high interest was still linked to low decision making. So the industry is still reluctant and still hesitating. And as soon as something new is happening, gas prices go down, or they have another plan, they step back from plans and so on. So altogether, only 22% of the 72 ship turnkey suppliers that are listed on the world map were actually satisfied with the business development in 2022. Some highlights from the year 2023. I would like to show you this photo, as it is the first prefabricated balance of plant for an oil and oil concentrating solar field in Turnhout, Belgium, that Werner already mentioned. It's a system that produces 300-degree steam for a chemical factory, and this is a good way forward to save costs and to have a very, like a cost-effective way of producing this part between the collector field and the client. Another maybe milestone was this large dish developed by an Australian company, Sunray CSP, built up in India with 450 square meters. It's a double-tracked system producing direct steam at fairly high efficiencies, has a reasonable small, ground footprint. And well, let's see whether they succeed to get more of these installed in the near future. And another milestone is the big plant that we have seen under construction in Spain for the Heineken factory in Sevilla. It's a ESCO project, which ENGIE, the utility, the Spanish subsidiary of the utility ENGIE, will provide the heat. The solar field is installed by Aztec. It consists of, parabolics, which the size of CSP plants in the original size, and it will deliver 210 degree to the factory of Sevilla. And it must be installed in a record short time because the subsidies force the project developers to finish by September. In New Heat will talk about their milestone themselves, I suppose, Nicolas. They have just about to commission this 10.5 megawatt plant in France, which he will probably explain us in detail on his presentation. So what was special this year for the first time in our survey is that we wanted to have this crystal ball. We wanted to see what the future brings in terms of SHIP. And we had a bit of funding from the Natural Resources Canada. A big thank to them on this point. So we have asked the project developers to give us not only their 2022 projects, but also contracted projects and projects under development. And 21 project developers from around the world followed this request, and a big thank to them, against NDAs and sometimes, like their major leads and whatever, they gave us the information, also some detailed information about the projects they plan. So we have them from Austria, Belgium, Canada, France, Germany, India, Israel, Mexico, Netherlands, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland and USA. This was where the companies came from. And they reported altogether 51 projects that are upcoming, and we looked into the methodology that Solites used. And Solites was behind the German map that Werner Weiss showed in his presentation on solar district heating. And what they do is, if they get projects in an early planning stage, they give them a realization potential. So if, for example, that's how we translated this into the SHIP market, if only a signed LOE or MOU is available for a project, we consider the capacity of this project only a 30% into our forecast. If an engineering study is already ordered by the client or the proved subsidy of the financing is available, then we consider this a 60% realization chance. And if an EPC contract for delivering the collector field or heat delivery contract is signed or construction already started or first heat was already delivered to the client, these are obviously a secured project and we consider them 100%. So this is a harmonized approach that we developed together with Solites, and they are using it for the map and we are now using it for the outlook. But before you can do your outlook, you have to look where you come from. And this is now the SHIP market as it developed from 2016 to 2020. It's cumulated figures in megawatt. The number of systems which were installed in each of these years are the gray dots on the top, So we started in 2016 identifying the market in a very comprehensive survey among industry players, also harmonizing that with the ship-plant.info database that Werner mentioned. So this was our world market sort of status quo at this point. And from there on, we added what we researched every year. This is the yellow bars. which is not so much. As you see, it was always between 18 and 28 megawatt. It's also without China. I think Werner already said that China is very hard to research, and we always have difficulties to confirm data from there. So we excluded all projects from China in this, even in the outlook. And I have to explain what the light purple fields here are. This is the capacity additions in the 2 phases of the ship plant in Oman from Glass Point. It was one time 120 and one time in 2019 180 megawatt. So this helped us a lot to make these big jumps in the ship overall capacity. But unfortunately, in May 2020, Glass Point was going bankruptcy, and this flow of projects was interrupted. And they are now in 2020 refounded, and we will see parts of it. Their announced projects is part of our outlook. So how does this outlook look like now? We have identified the 51 projects, and 25 of them are fairly committed already to be finalized in 2023, and they add up to 71 megawatt. So this is already a nice increase compared to the 23 megawatt that were added in 2022. And now if you go a step further and you look into projects that are announced for the years 2024 and 2026, and you do this weighted strategy from Solites by only counting 30–60% of the projects, we end up with 304 megawatt that are already announced at this early stage for the next years to come. So I think the ship market really has a good potential for growth. If we are very optimistic on, how reliable the data is and whether all projects will be realized, then we will even reach another doubling. So this column here with the 1.695 megawatt, this is if all the projects without reduction and weighted, percentage probabilities come true. So you see that we had the first big jump because of Oman project, a doubling in capacity until 2019, and we will then reach again a doubling in a shorter period of only several years. So altogether good outlooks. 2 interesting figures or factors, if you look into the ship market, usually is the share of concentrating collectors, and which is here in yellow and red, and the share of ESCO projects. So I have pointed first to you the history again, 2021 and 2022, according to the newly installed ship capacity of these 2 years. You see in the top that the concentrating collectors have about 20% share of the newly installed capacity. In the bottom line, you see that the ESCO model, which we call heat delivery contracts, is sometimes a bit higher because 2021, a big new heat project came online. So this was a bigger share. But in 2022, again, the share was rather small. And now I show you what our outlook says about these 2 factors. And you see that the concentrating collectors will increase a lot. So among the 51 projects that we have received, a very high share is concentrating collectors. So the share will go up to 70 and 80%. Same thing on the ESCO side. So from the very small shares where we come from, we will reach at the 2023 projected project, 78% of the introduced capacity will be in ESCO model. And further on, 2024 onwards, it will be even 94%. So from this, you can really see that at the moment, the market looks like everybody who is going big in ship, is doing ESCO business model, and a lot of them use concentrating collectors. A last little crystal ball, if you look now into where the 51 projects are located, you see that Europe plays a big role, including Turkey here with 150 megawatt, equally strong with the Arabic countries where big projects were announced. India and Mexico have a lot of projects, but smaller ones, as you can see from their share here. And USA already with a certain pie chart, which we probably see more growth here as well. So only my time is flying, but only let me confirm you by looking into the ship supply side, because we have talked now a lot about the demand side. that also the supplier side, which is our world map, you know, of ship suppliers, reflect the trends that I have just talked about. This shows you the portfolio of the 72 turnkey ship suppliers which are on the world map at the moment. And you see that the larger share of these companies have concentrating collectors in the meantime. So we have seen a growing field of parabolic draft collectors, which are now already at 17. We have a growing concentrating dish provider field. And so this shows already that there is more innovation and startups coming up also in this field. Regarding ESCO, I can balance now that 65% of all the companies listed on the world map offer ESCO services, which is also an increasing share over the years. This is the ranking of the turnkey ship suppliers related to the ship project they reported to us over the years in the surveys by the end of 2020. The top positions, Modulo Solar, Sunrain Group, Solar East Group, Lenovo Paradigma remained the same. But within the ranking, there were some changes because mainly the Netherlands companies, G2 Energy and NextSource, climbed up in the ranking because they have a nice subsidy program, which is called SDE++, and they do a lot of agricultural systems, which also count like ship. And we had Tigi from Israel starting into the ranking with their 10th system this year. And we lost Megawatt, the only Indian manufacturer which was still left in the ranking because they have other priorities now and they are not that much anymore in ship. Yeah, this is where the companies come from that are listed on the world map. This is my last chart. You see that Mexico is still a big hub for the industry. But USA and Canada, these are the two brown marked pie charts here with 8 and 3 companies are rising. So we have seen, I think, 6 new entries from this region from both countries this year. So there's really an increasing supply chain. And you also see that the countries with the nice subsidy programs in Germany, Austria, Spain, Netherlands, Germany, and France are well represented in this industry circle. So this was it from my side. This is for your records afterwards to read more. You know, I have listed you the major sources of information. You find under this first link, Modulus, all the reports about our recent ship surveys. You find the list, the world map itself under solar-payback.com suppliers. We have a photo database I wanted to remind you on with around 100 photos of ship plants, which are suitable to be used. You can download them, and if you give the reference of the copyright owner, you can use them for free in your presentations or publications. And then all the different sources here, like you can follow us on Twitter or LinkedIn. And if you have further questions and comments, don't hesitate to contact me via app@sobico.com. So this is it from my side. I'm looking forward to the Q&A session, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Berbel. Thanks for this outstanding insight in the current trends and driving factors for ship. I have to say that living in Belgium, I really like to see the examples like the one you have shown, as it really, people think that we don't have enough solar energy in this country to use solar thermal, and the example you were giving is one of the, not the only one, but one of the interesting ones where it's already used for industry and for higher temperature. As we've seen, the solar industrial heat outlook was quite impressive. I point out the potential doubling of the capacity from 2019 to 2023. And I think we can also understand a bit better with the next presentation. And I'm happy to introduce Nicolas Gravlin. Nicolas is a more recent newcomer to our sector. He has an extensive experience in water treatment in different countries and different continents. Even if joining our sector in 2021, Nicolas already has an extremely interesting experience as head of international development at New Heat. New Heat is a project developer. We're happy also to have them as a member of Solar Heat Europe, and they have been pivotal in the development of large-scale solar heat in Europe, namely for industrial processes. Therefore, it's clear that Nicolas is extremely well positioned to tell us more about the experience of solar heating in this context. So Nicola, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pedro. Let me just manage this little technical issue to share my screen. And I hope you can see it well online. If I don't hear anything, I suppose it's you hear it. Pedro,
we can see, but not the main screen. So we can see the one where you with the support of the slideshow.
Okay.
If you go to display settings.
Sorry, it just worked before and now. If we start again, your screen sharing, maybe that's the way it will get it. Arabella, if you can give me the control as we did before.
Yes, 1 second. Here we go.
No, I don't.
Okay, while you prepare that, so we already have received some questions on the question panel. So we invite you to use it for additional questions you might have. We will address them after all the presentations are done. Some of them there is already some information on the question panel, but we will come back to some of these questions also later on. So, okay, Nicolas, so please, we can see the main screen, so please go ahead.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so thanks for the introduction, Pedro, and thank you, Werner Weiss, for the invitation to be here today at this Solar Academy. The purpose of my my presentation today is mainly to present what we have so far in operation. So we're not talking about a prospective pipeline or hypothetical project. We will focus today on the projects which are currently in operation under a heat purchase agreement in the industry. For that, I would like to give a little introduction about who we are very quickly, as I believe our business model is quite linked to the success factor of these projects, and so that they play a key role in the fact that these projects have come to life. So very quickly, we are at New Heat, we are 100% renewable heat provider. We are leader in the solar thermal for industrial solar in Europe. Even though solar thermal is in our DNA, we quickly added a few other equipment and technological bricks, such as heat pump, heat recovery being the first one you look at when you look on an industrial site. And of course, once you have solar thermal, heat recovery, heat pumps, they need to be combined in a short or long-term heat storage to be able to adapt production and demand. How we do it, that's our model on the left. We provide a design, build, own, and operate model. So at New Heat, we have engineers which design it up front. They do the preliminary studies and then the detailed studies. We have then the development phase. We build our projects and we finance them also ourselves. And then we usually operate them for 15, 20, 25 years. What we do for industrial clients is really to understand first the heat requirements. It's key. We're not just a producer of heat. We produce and integrate directly in the process of the client. So it needs a bit of effort, a bit of modelization capacity to ensure that what the client gives us is also what we will provide heat to. And then, of course, in-house, we design the different requirements and propose a solution. It's really a project-by-project approach. So there's no one size fits all. Yes, we could say it's a square thermal field with a storage tank, but yes, then there's all the parts on the other side where it's really tailor-made to adapt to the heat requirements of the client. So one of the key aspects and one of the key success factor of ship and large-scale ship is the capacity to provide heat as a service. So in this solar thermal today, when you combine it with renewable, other renewable heat, thermal storage, heat pumps, heat recovery, are typically 7-10 years payback. And so you don't find a lot of industrial clients which are happy to invest on such long-term return on investment. So we take the risk in-house, we take the technical risk, the financial risk, and the administrative risk for all the development, the permitting, and so on. And the idea is, against that, we request a commitment from the heat consumer for 15 or 25 years. Very quickly, we are based today mainly in Bordeaux, with 40 people, 40 of us here in UIT, engineering, modeling, construction, and operation, on top of business development. And we have an office in Madrid to develop the Spanish and Portuguese markets. We have a colleague based in Graz for all the district heating networks for the Central Eastern Europe. And then we have two more tropical destinations with Sydney, with François Xavier, and Chile with Gustavo, who are both working on this very sunny country with stable economic growth. So now I'd like to dive into the processes, solar heat in the ship plants for different clients that are currently running, that can be today inspected or visited if you would like to, and when we have the performance, we can show the performance over 12 or 24 months, depending on the plant, or even longer for the first with Conda. So overall, New Heat today, we have more than 40 megawatts of renewable heat plants in operation. Today, I'd like to focus only on those which are solar heat for industrial plants. So we also work with district heating networks, but it's not the topic today. So if you look at these three projects, Conda was our first project for the company Lecta, which is a paper manufacturing company. Then we have a plant that we operate in Issoudun for an investor, which is Kyotherm, and the client, which is Borkmalt, which we operate daily, and which is an interesting project. And then finally, since last November, we operate the largest plant on flat plate collector in Europe with the lactoserum powder factory of Lactalis in Verdun, north of France. I think it's important to see that each time these projects are very specific and they change from one to the other. The first one, which was commissioned in 2019, was from the Conda paper mill from the Lecta group. We have a peak power of 3.4 megawatt thermal with a little storage capacity and the capacity to avoid 1,000 tons of CO2 per year. It was our first project, quite a complicated one, because we had to rehabilitate an old carbonated sludge storage area. So under the panels, you actually have an old sludge deposit that we had to insulate and impermeabilize. And there the role of the plant is to preheat the makeup boiler, the makeup water for the boiler. And on the financing part or subsidies, it was a grant of above 50% granted by the French energy agency ADEME, and with one specific client, the Conda paper mill. Then the second project that I want to present today was commissioned in April 2021. So we have now 2 years of visibility. 2 years of fine-tuning and 2 years of operating in parallel with a biomass and with a cogeneration plant. So for those who have an idea of how to run multiple heat production at the same time, you understand the complexity. And so we're quite proud of achieving the daily operation of this plant in a complex environment. Here, the size of the plant is about 12 megawatts. We run a storage capacity of 3,000 cubic meters, and we avoid 2,000 tons per year of CO2. Again, the French ADEME was one of the grants that was received for that. And it's one of the only projects today where we had a third-party investor, Q-Term, and so it's a plant that we don't own and that we have built, that we have designed with our engineering team, and that we operate since. I think it's also interesting to see that it's split in 3 areas. It's because the area was a bit crowded, and the land we could gather was a bit split was small and a bit confined. And finally, the latest project, I'd like to go a bit to give you a bit more details around what we've made there. So this is really the latest. It's our latest child, if we can say. It's providing heat to milk drying tower for Lactalis. It's a group which is on this site, the Lactoserum France site. They produce mainly whey powder, and here we are using solar thermal and storage to preheat this heat in the tower directly and inject hot air into the very exigent and critical process, which is this drying tower. As you might know, they're very strict on hygiene and what you get, because half of this product end up in baby milks or in other food additives. So this is the largest project that we know of. Maybe Barbel in your database you have others, but in Europe we believe it is the largest plant for industrial application in operation currently. There could be some we hear in the coming year that might dwarf this project, but it's still a very good a reference we are very proud of. And so with 2 applications, 13.3 megawatt distributed mainly for main air inlet drying, but also to regenerate the dehumidification cartridges. This project was interesting in terms of structuring for the finance aspect. The French agency also with the Fonds Chaleur has provided a grant, but there was also a fund available for industrial development in the region, which chipped in and which joined in the SPV as a co-shareholder of the plant. And the duration of this contract is for 25 years. One of the project highlights was the integration of our air-to-water exchanger into their process. Some of you might know, but the people which are doing these drying towers for milk are very critical on what you add or what you change into this process. And so we had to work hand in hand, our engineers with drying tower engineers, to make sure that we comply with their specification. And so we had to integrate in their airflow in front of the steam air heat exchanger our own air-water heat exchanger to benefit from the lower temperature that could be provided by the solar thermal plant. And finally, the key outtakes. There's a lot here, I realize when I see it again. But so we today have sheep which are grazing, so that's the picture down there. And they are happy, even though it's It was built last year. The grass is there, very generous, so there's plenty to eat for our nice little friend there. There was also a lot of concern around a dangerous frog species, which was identified by our environmental study. And so, of course, the area was protected. The site had archaeological interests, and so the state body, which is in charge of that, had to investigate and recover some archaeological samples. And I think in terms of the technicality of the project, I would like to say that it looked like a very difficult project, but step by step, every hurdle was overcome. At first, we had to cross a railway between the solar plant and the factory. And so this can add a bit of complexity in terms of drilling under the railway, but also in terms of permanent access to this area, because it's under the rail and you are in the property of the French Railway Authority. There is ATEX regulation because there is some powder that can be in the air, so requirements around explosive area. And of course, just to facilitate it, there is a high voltage transmission line above the solar field. And so that's about it. I think it's a very interesting project. We still don't have enough background to say the client is happy, but up to date, it's working fine. It's providing heat to decarbonate up to 20% of the heat requirements of this site. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicolas. Very, very interesting. So thanks for bringing concrete information on existing ship systems and business models, and how you operate and how you try to address the needs of clients and potential clients. So as a side note from our side, we can confirm that the project you referred in Lactalis in Perpignan is the current largest one in operation. But as you mentioned, and this is not so good news for that one, but good news for the additional ones, is that there will be likely bigger ones coming up soon. So, and for us in the sector,
that's good news.
That's good news.
Good news for the sector.
For everyone,
and
yeah.
Soon there'll be another one.
Exactly. So that's very interesting that we are under this development, and I have to say, and for us it's surprising how fast it's developing, also in terms of the large scale, the size of the systems for industry. So we didn't see it coming a few years ago. Just to refer, in Europe, 4 years ago, the largest system had 2 megawatts before the one that Nicolas presented also for the paper mill in France. So the largest one had only 2 megawatts. So that's an interesting development. We have now some time for questions for our speakers. So you can put your questions directly in the question panel. We have already had some questions. So I would start with to Werner Weiss on the question of the information on the temperature levels that are covered in the report. So there was also a slide from Verbal that was showing, in this case for industry, the different range of temperatures covered and the different type of collectors. But Werner, maybe you can give us a bit more detail on what are the type of temperature ranges covered. How can also the readers try to get more information on the report about this? Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro, and thank you for the question. Yes, the Solar Heat Worldwide reports includes the whole range from low temperature, let's say from swimming pool heating up to the range of 400 degrees. Even if I have to mention that usually, so we have the low temperature for swimming pool, it represents on the global scale about 6% of the global market of the total installed capacity is for swimming pool heating. And this is mainly in the US, but also in Australia, there's a strong market. And then it includes, of course, solar water heating, space heating for single family, multiple family houses, also cooling. All the applications are included. Ship, there was a long discussion on this, and especially with ship, so industrial process heat, most of the systems are still in the low temperature range, so going up to about 100 degrees, because food and beverage sector, where we have the most applications, what they need is usually up to 100 degrees. Nevertheless, Bärbel mentioned it, more and more companies go to concentrating systems, and then we usually go up to something like 200, maximum 250 degrees. This is where we usually have the industry who is interested in solar thermal heat. So we cover the whole range of temperature ranges. If you want to know a little bit more on it, please download our report. Then you find significantly more also for the different countries.
Thank you very much, Werner. So the next question for Bärbel is about the main difficulties, the common difficulties that are faced for the widespread of ship system in the European market. And in case Nicolas can also wants to add, I think it would also be interesting to have his perspective. So Bärbel, please.
Yeah, thank you. Well, there are still difficulties, as we have seen. You know, the industry is not so satisfied, and also I think the reasons are manifold. First, I think Nicolas' presentation showed that it's not standardized solutions that we offer industrial clients, but it's a very tailor-made system. So planning periods are complex. Engineering capacity and engineering work on a single project is challenging. And so there is big efforts going into project development rather than if you just plug a PV system into a big grid. This is one reason. Then we have not reached this critical mass yet that each client will say, oh, I have seen this next door at the dairy just around the corner, or you know, in my neighboring town I have seen in the news that there is a big ship plant coming up in a brewery. So the number of systems is still small. So each of our systems is still a bit unique in their region, in their way how it's designed, maybe in the way how the connectors are used and so on. So we need to get very fast a big critical mass, and maybe we are at a point now where we really receive several multi-megawatt hours in a shorter term, so that clients lose the hesitation and the fear against this new technology. And then the third point is a pure economic one, and goes for the short payback periods that industry still often asked. I mean, New Heat with their ESCO project overcomes this, and I have showed you that the future in ship worldwide seems to be very interlinked with ESCOs. So that's a good news, and that's maybe the best way to get out of this problem within short payback periods.
Thank you very much, Bärbel. So next for Nicolas, a question on the solar fraction of the project. So maybe covering the different ones that were presented. And then there is another question on specifically on the powder facility, Lactoserum in France. So which type of dehumidification system is installed, if in case you know? And if you want to comment on the previous question, also on the common difficulties, that would be obviously great.
Yes, so on the I'll start with the difficulties, and what we can see in the market today is, especially in this period in the last 48 months, where the price of gas was at 20 euro a megawatt hour, and then some people had to pay 350. And so the big question today with a lot of industrial clients is what's next? So will it stabilize around 40? Will it drop back to 18? Or will we see events of 100 plus 200 several times in a 20 years period? And so to overcome this, this risk or this opportunity that they can see in the gas So the risk of the gas going high or the gas, which is our main enemy, going down, can be partly covered by significant subsidies in the capex. So subsidies on the capex help to stabilize a certain level of heat for 20, 30 years, depending on the appetite of the client, and can help. So a clear vision on subsidies on the capex or a compensation of the different market fluctuation can be also a way to lift these difficulties. Difficulties, I think, come from industrial clients which want to invest themselves in these technologies, heat pumps or thermal heat recovery, and they realize that it's not what they do every day. So it's a lot of complexity. There's a bit of modeling behind, and so if you don't have a third party which can validate the performance of the plant, which can certify that they will provide the heat at a certain level of temperature and stable over a couple of decades, then you lose the certainty of the client, and of course it makes the decision quite complicated. Then I'll come. You mentioned the solar fraction that a ship plant can cover. Today at New Heat, we focus on heats below 120 degrees typically, but nothing opposes us to work on other technologies, parabolic or concentrated solar. It's just that economically today we see a sweet spot with these low pressures and low temperature, and on significant amount of food and beverage plants, they can cover up to 100% of the production. So how is that possible? Mainly through long-term storage and to capacity to store excess heat in summer and regenerate it in winter into the process. So typically with a multi plant like the one we operate in Issoudun, a larger solar plant with minimum maybe 2 to 10% of heat pump could cover 100% of the heat requirement of the site. So the fraction can go up to 100%. And then the last one you mentioned, Pedro, if you can give you, I've lost my the goldfish memory. Can you give me a few on the last question?
Was quite specific. Was about the dehumidification system used in the lactosenum facility, in case you know. So if it's solid or liquid desiccant.
No, sorry, I would come back to you on that question. But from what I understand is for the regeneration of this dehumidification units.
Okay, very good. Okay, so next to Vernon from Abdul Awid Badar. So the question is a bit longer, so please bear with me. Solar-based absorption cooling systems are so far considered the most successful technology, but compared to vapor compression, manufacturers of absorption-based cooling systems are so rarely found in the global market, especially the small capacity systems with less than 20 kilowatts. What could be the major factors for that, and how could it be flourished in the future? So a simple one for you, Werner.
Yeah, in general, I have to mention solar cooling is a hard business for really several years, and basically it's a market for large-scale applications. It's not at all for small-scale applications. If you have thermal-driven chillers, this is basically the quick answer. And there are just a few companies which still work on solar cooling. I have just to go back. Last year, about 4 new systems were installed, and they all, just let me check, they're all in the range of cooling capacity between 300 and 700 kilowatt at least. So this is, I don't know if I catch the answer. but I don't want to go in more detail on the cooling devices.
Okay, thank you very much. But I think it was already interesting. So next to Verbal from Fernando Manuel Gomes Castro, how have been the development, sorry, or the market, how has evolved, better saying, the market trend and niche of photovoltaic thermal concentrators in ship systems in the last 3 years? So also quite specific. I don't know if you have such detailed information, Verbal.
Well, there's one concentrating solar thermal company in Europe yet, which is Naked Energy, and I question them regularly whether they have new ship plants, and they have not yet. So they have offered solutions, and they have installed them for hotels and others, but not for ship yet. But what photovoltaic and PVT, as without concentrating, is concerned, this is really picking up in ship. So we have now 4 of such suppliers on the ship world map, and they are already, like in Spain we had some, and in the Netherlands we had some, and among the future potential outlook projects, there are also some from Austria, where they start to combine PVT also with high temperature heat pumps and seasonal storages for textile companies to reach even 130 degrees and producing electricity at the same time. So I think that PVT has really entered the ship market now, with some players offering such solutions. So it's really prospering.
Very good, thank you very much. Next one to Nicolas from Paul Kritiatirta. Sorry if I didn't pronounce well. So the question is, how does ship compare to generation by solar PV, and then using the electricity for industrial process heat? And there was also another question, which I think you can also clarify, that the photos we saw in the different systems you have were always from solar thermal panels, not PV panels.
So first, yes, the picture were from flat plate collectors. They look indeed similar to PV plants, but they were flat plate collectors, large scale. And then again, I can't remember the first question.
So the first question,
probably
the main question was mainly how the solar thermal as a solution for industry compare to the option for industries to use PV
with sorry. Yeah, so the alternative we're looking at today is photovoltaic or decarbonated PPAs on the electricity side, to make sure that at the end using a heat pump on carbonated electricity doesn't make a lot of sense. So if we want to decarbonate, we have to make the renewable electricity side secure, and so these come with a cost, and depending on where you sit in the world, this might be the solution which is more cost efficient than solar thermal, and in some cases PV plus heat pump will be the solution. The big question mark around electrification of heat requirements is the availability of this electricity. So today, if you look at Europe, which is quite a significant market in terms of energy, we have half of it, of the final energy consumers, which are heat, roughly 25 which is transport, and roughly 25 which is for electricity purposes, for electricity production. And so if the mobility, the transport wants to take a bit of electricity, and if other new needs will come in for electricity, will they still be cheap electricity for heat? And so the question is a bit of a merit order. And so in terms of non-using any finished renewable source, geothermal and solar thermal come in the second place, just after waste heat recovery. And so it's more of a scale issue, and then side per side it can be assessed. But typically, if you install solar thermal, you consume infinite resource, and you don't have to take electricity from the grid, which could be used for decarbonizing the transport sector.
Okay, thank you very much. And with this, we need now to wrap up. We're getting to the limit of our time. So I want to thank the speakers for their enlightened presentations, and also the participants for attending this webinar, but also for your questions, which helped us to get further into this topic. So from my side, once again, I want to thank the IEA Solar Academy and IEA SHC and ISIS for this invitation and for the work they have been doing with these webinars. I also invite you to contact further the speakers. Myself, I'm also available. So in case you have additional questions, and invite you to download the report, the Solar Heat Worldwide report from the IEA SHC website. And this is it from my side. So now I would give the floor back to Arabella for a final message. So thanks again a lot for our speakers and all of you attending. Thank you.
Yes, thank you also from my side to the speakers. Before we close out, I have a few last words I want to share. And that is, we always receive questions on whether there is a recording of the webinar and how about the presentations. Yes, both these things will be available in a few days, and they will be available obviously on the IEA SHC Solar Academy homepage, but also as well on the ISIS homepage. For any ISIS members on the call, please remember you already have the unlimited access to all our webinars. So just log into the ISIS webinar archive. And then finally, good news for everybody who likes going to conferences. We have one for you, and it's going to be in October. So October 30th to November 4th, we are bringing the ISIS Solar World Congress to New Delhi in India. Registration for this will open very soon. And if you want to have a look at, I believe, 13 different conference themes, check out the homepage at www.swc2023.org. That's where you will find all the relevant information. And with that, thank you to everybody who joined us on the webinar today. Thank you again to the moderator and the speakers. If you have any questions or feedback you want to share, you can do that at public.relations@isis.org. There will also be a short survey on how you liked the webinar, and you can follow us on all the usual channels. And with that, thank you very much to everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will meet the IEA SHC Solar Academy team again in September. So bye from my side.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Arabella. Bye. Bye, everybody.